way, Jose.
Red Hot Gotsy, come subscribe, come subscribe, come subscribe, come subscribe.
No way.
Red Hot Gotsy, or should I say, ho, 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 it's Christmas! I apologize to anyone's eardrums I just completely eviscerated, but I am excited. The reason I am excited is because I finally get to talk about Cobra Kai Season 3, Episodes 9 and 10 of Cobra Kai Christmas. Now basically Episode 9 opens with Ali finally returning to the series, you know, the Cobra Kai universe, after what? 37 years? Holy crap, I'm not even 37. Well, basically, she's just talking about how she wants to reunite with Johnny and Daniel, chop it up a little bit, because it has been a while. And, you know, then we get a scene where Johnny and Carmen are talking after they got done during the nasty. And, essentially, Johnny and her are just talking about how they don't want to, you know, screw up this little thing that they have going on. Essentially, Johnny's moved on for the most part, and he's trying to, you know, get over Ellie fully, but he's not there yet. And that's basically the whole premise of Episode 9 and 10. Is him trying to like get there. He also doesn't want to screw things up with Miguel, so that's a whole thing. And basically what I like about these two episodes is it focuses on the characters that want to move on or basically find a way to deal with their situation, whether it's bad or whether it's good or whether it's complicated. Two great examples of this are Robbie and Hawk. Now essentially with Robbie's trying to find his place in Cobra Kai because he never was truly accepted by Miyagi-Do and he was abandoned by them. And Hawk essentially never had a place in Miyagi-Do to begin with, and he's trying to find a place within that, within Kreese, since, you know, he basically abandoned Johnny, which is very interesting because it's like Hawk actually felt some type of way about Johnny because of the fact that Miguel almost died. So he basically didn't really believe in his teachings or really trust him ever again. But the thing is, that backfired on him because Kreese ended up screwing him over later on. And we reached the point in Episode 9 where Hawk is really contemplating if he wants to stay in Cobra Kai because Robbie's basically taking the spotlight and taking the spot that he thought he was going to have, that Kreese was going to give him because of the fact that Kreese has been basically manipulating him this entire time, just like he does with all those other students. That's basically what Kreese does. Like, he'll sit up here and play with your, you know, play with the heartstrings, you know, kind of, or tug on them is a better term for it, and essentially just use your trauma or use some sort of motivation that you have and twist it in order to bring you to his side. I really do genuinely appreciate how Daniel's calling out Sam as well in that one scene where, you know, her and Miguel are like flirting and stuff like that. I really hate how Sam just kind of jumps from guy to guy to guy, and I had an issue with that in my past Cobra Kai videos. You know, if you haven't seen them, go watch them. Basically, it kind of shows my history with all the characters, basically just going over my thought process on all of them. There was a time where I really hated Robbie. I despised him. I thought he was a shitty character and a shitty person. Now I've kind of turned on that. I've kind of like switched my mindset, and I actually think he's one of my favorite characters in the series. But Sam, it's actually been pretty consistent. I really do not like Sam. Now, it isn't this thing of like, oh, she cheated once, therefore she's the worst character on the show. It's more so like she makes a lot of dumb decisions, and obviously she's younger, so like I understand that, you know, people of that age are gonna make stupid decisions, they have to grow and stuff of that nature. Same thing with Miguel. Miguel ended up cheating on Tori, and, you know, I forgave him. You know, I still like him as a character. He's still my GOAT, to be honest, next to Robbie. But at the end of the day, I feel like Sam makes a lot of selfish decisions, and just does a lot of annoying stuff, and she justifies it in the worst way possible. And I'm just glad that Daniel actually like holds her accountable in this. But at the end of the day, this isn't a Sam hate video. I'm just, you know, throwing my thoughts out there. I mean, I really do feel bad for Robbie. I mean, he's hanging out with freaking Kyler. And you see him doing like initiations and stuff, like when he had to steal that snake because no one else could do it, not even Tori, Kyler, Hawk. It's like, it's really sad, man, because I really liked him as a Miyagi-Do student. I actually liked him in seasons 1 and 2 to some extent. Now, if you asked the old me, I would probably say that no, he's a terrible character in seasons 1 and 2, especially 2, because, you know, I was really upset at the fact that he kicked Miguel off the railing and, you know, other stuff in that season. I thought he was really annoying and stuff like that. And I understand why a lot of people don't like him in those seasons, but honestly, I think he was a really good dude. I think Robbie's always been a really good dude. Well, not always. Like, I think in season 1 in the beginning, obviously he was doing bad stuff, illegal stuff, but that was because of his trauma and the fact that his dad abandoned him and stuff like that, and just stuff of that nature. So I always understood his character to some extent. But it's just really sad seeing him transition into a full-on Cobra Kai. Also, I really like in this episode that we really get some context for, like, Daniel's perspective in the whole, like, rivalry when it comes to Johnny and Daniel. And he essentially tells Miguel that, and, you know, shows him, like, why, you know, there's always two sides to every story. And I like the fact that Miguel essentially reveals that Johnny saw Allie as his first love, and so did Daniel, obviously, as we saw in Karate Kid 1. And they both thought she was the one, and that's something that they could relate on, or relate to, or whatever. You know, there's some common ground that they have. And that basically shows that in the future, it's basically like foreshadowing that they're gonna make up in the end, and they're gonna end the rivalry, essentially. The one thing I will say about season 3 is one of the main things that I really love about it is the fact that they actually foreshadow Hawk's redemption throughout the entire season, and they don't just like shoehorn it in like the last or second to last episode. And you see it in this episode too. Like, he actually is like having some sort of doubt after, you know, hearing Kreese's speech. And again, he's basically giving Robbie all the praise and, you know, just completely ignoring Hawk, and that sort of like rubs him the wrong way. And even like Tori is kind of put more so on the pedestal than Hawk. Hawk is he's just a lackey, he's just a goon, and he's starting to kind of realize that. I also really like how Sam and Miguel are trying to get Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang to like work together, because Cobra Kai has some demons on their team, I ain't gonna lie. It also foreshadows the end of the season, which is the next episode, which I'm about to talk about. And it also foreshadows, again, Johnny and Daniel eventually making up and, you know, becoming friends. Now, obviously, that has to be halted so we can have more content. So, obviously, they have to show them having beef again in the next episode. And basically, the start of that is the end of the episode 9, where basically they show Johnny being petty once again and being mad at the fact that Daniel's reuniting with Allie. It's kind of funny because it's like, you mother fricker. You trying to get my girl? You trying to steal my girl again? You son of a bitch! So basically, the episode starts off pretty wholesomely. We actually get to see Kreese locked up in a cage with Silver and his general, and basically his general's going over how much of a worthless piece of crap Kreese is, and, you know, yeah, he really does not like him. And basically, it's just showing the living embodiment of everything Kreese stands for by showing the pit, you know, full of snakes. That is the reason that Kreese is so goddamn crazy to begin with, and showing the fact that all his men are basically locked up in a cage, and they have to fight against their will and kill each other. So yeah, it's pretty wholesome. And then Dimitri gives this speech about like togetherness or some bull crap. I don't even care. I don't care about Dimitri. Also, I must really mention, I really like scenes in this show where they really talk about like the old movies, and they really talk about all the history that they have. And I feel like this universe is really lived in, and it's because of the writing and the characters and the dialogue. Now, the next important scene is basically just the next scene where we basically see Tori break countless laws along with Kyler, Hawk, and all the other goons from Cobra Kai. Also, I really hate how Tori tries to be tough in this scene, like she's him, like she just wins every single fight that she's in. Like, didn't you just get your ass whooped last season? Like, what the f? No, but seriously, going back to what I was saying, like, honestly, if I was Amanda or Daniel, I'm calling the cops on, like, basically every single Cobra Kai student, like, dead ass. So basically, the adults are just basically reminiscing about all the fun times that they had in the past, and, you know, all the history that they have together, and just all the fun, quirky stuff that's happened. While basically their kids are fighting for their lives, while the rivaling dojo is basically breaking countless laws trying to kill them. So yeah, this is pretty nice. It's a good Christmas special. I also love how Kyler's beating up Miguel as if like he didn't just whoop your ass like constantly throughout the last couple seasons. And the only reason that you're beating his ass now is because you just got out of a freaking coma. Like, okay, Kyler, you're not tough. You're not cool. I'm also glad that in the same scene, Sam finally decides to not be a wuss and actually stands up for herself and ends up defeating Tori later in the episode. Took long enough. God, I mean, honestly, Tori is not even that cold. Like, she gets her ass whooped constantly. She needs to use weapons to defeat you. Like, come on, lock in. I'm also glad that we really got a scene with Daniel and Allie just, you know, talking, you know, reminiscing about everything, and basically just explaining that their breakup wasn't like the end of their friendship, and basically that they can still be cool and, you know, remember the good times. And I really like that, you know, these two were the main couple in the beginning of the franchise, and I'm really glad that, you know, they're still cool and stuff like that. And it even prompts Daniel to end up saying, you know, Merry Christmas to Johnny, and basically it just shows, like, if they put their differences to the side, they can actually become really good friends. And I really like that wholesome little scene right there. We also got to see a scene like that in seasons 1 and 2, I think, because they always tease the fact that they're going to become friends throughout the first, like, couple seasons, and then they basically screw it up at the end, which is funny. But in this season, they actually don't do that. It's actually the start of, like, a team up, essentially. I'm also really glad that we got to see Hawk's redemption in this season, because Hawk, I always knew, like, he wasn't fully just, like, evil. He wasn't pure evil. He just was manipulated. Obviously, he uses the Hawk persona to basically shield himself from, like, any sort of pain, or, like, he uses it to basically hide his insecurities. I mean, Hawk, at the end of the day, was, you know, basically a loser. At least he felt like a loser in season 1, where he got no hose, he had stupid hair, he had a stupid lip, and he had a stutter. So essentially, like, you can understand why he felt really bad about himself, and why, you know, he wanted to revamp himself, or essentially, as he says it, flip the script. I really also like how Dimitri immediately forgives him, basically showing that Dimitri is not only a better person than Hawk at this given point in the series, but that his kindness breaks barriers. Like, he was the one that basically made the speech to all the kids saying, like, okay, we need Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang to get along. And I really like that. He's really showing, like, some activity here. Like, he's being an active character, which Dimitri in previous seasons just wasn't. Now, obviously, they had to screw this up in season 6, and he ended up having some sort of grudge against him over this because, well, it's season 6. I also like that, you know, Miguel actually listened to what Johnny said, you know, internalized all of the, you know, growth and everything that Miguel's learned, and he beat the hell out of Kyler because, you know, he should. Although maybe it doesn't make sense. I don't know. He was literally just in the coma 2 seconds ago. I also really like the scene where Johnny and Ellie are actually talking outside, and basically Ellie heard, you know, about, from Amanda about, Carmen, and it's really nice that they got a scene where basically he's essentially establishing that he's over her and that she feels happy for him, and it's just like a wholesome thing overall, and I just really enjoy that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in the entire show, honestly. I also kind of like the scene where basically it's Kreese's backstory, and they're getting into how he basically became a crash out. And on top of that, right next to the scene is a scene where, you know, Johnny walks into Cobra Kai, and he walks in on Kreese and Robbie, essentially just like Kreese is training Robbie, and he basically, Kreese prepared this for Johnny to see because he's an asshole and he wanted to be petty. And it kind of is a good parallel that I didn't even realize until just now, is that Kreese essentially has his backstory where he became a crash out, and Robbie's becoming a crash out now because he's crashing out on his dad, and he's basically becoming an evil version of himself, just like Kreese was turned into a monster back in the day, you know, when he was in the war. This basically shows that if you learn the wrong lessons in life, and you learn them at the wrong time, it could screw up your entire life. And the thing is, Kreese was put in a really bad situation, and he became a monster from it because he did not learn he basically let his trauma take him over and, essentially just screw him up forever. And obviously, he went through something very tragic, and it's understandable, and that's why I really like Kreese. He's one of my favorite characters, honestly. I would say he's like top 5, honestly. And, like, it really shows that not only he really genuinely believes what he believes, but it's screwed up. And that's why he's screwing up Robbie, but he doesn't realize he's screwing up Robbie. He thinks that he's bettering his life. So it really shows just like how trauma just is generational. And of course, Johnny is not having any of that. He beats the absolute piss out of Kreese, and honestly, it makes sense that he would be able to do that, even though Kreese is his sensei, because, I mean, Kreese is like 90, and Johnny is like 77, so, yeah, kind of makes sense. He has an advantage. And of course, Robbie has to have his Revenge of the Sith moment, talking about some, I hate you! And then he proceeds to get his ass whooped by Johnny, because, you know, it's freaking dad, obviously. He's freaking been training for like 40 years or some crap. Yeah, it's kind of funny, honestly. And then, you know, Kreese has his backstory moment where it basically shows that he had to kill his general, and that's basically why he believes in the no mercy bullcrap, because that's kind of the situation that he was put in back in the day, and it worked out for him. So he was like, hey, well, why don't I just believe in this for another 40 effing years? You know, who cares? You know, it makes sense, right? And then Daniel's like, nah, we're not having any of that. And then he proceeds to beat the crap out of him, just like Johnny just got done doing. And he does it worse, honestly, because he used the freaking pressure points. obviously he was about to pack him the hell up, but obviously the kids show up, so he had to hold back. And then they had that little stare down, and Robbie was trying to aura farm, even though he has no freaking aura. And then the next scene is basically just, it's basically just the flashback of Terry saying like, "Oh, I owe you one, man. I'm your boy for life." Yada yada yada. And then they show him, Kreese basically calling Terry, which they show at the beginning of season 4, and he basically just ignores it because it's been like, what, 40 something years, like plus actually, way longer than that. He does not care. And it makes sense, honestly, now I think about it. And then the next and final scene is basically just Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang finally getting together, realizing that they have to form an alliance in order to defeat Cobra Kai. And basically it's just them, just posing for the camera and stuff like that, and just showing like that they're united. You have some reunions, like you have Hawk and Dimitri and stuff like that, and Hawk and Miguel, they're finally on the same team again, so you really get to see that, and really get to see everyone just finally teaming up, and Johnny and Daniel are finally on the same team now. And even though they have different fighting styles and different strategies and different ways of teaching, they can finally join forces. So yeah, that's basically the end of season 3 and the end of the Christmas special. And honestly, I love both. I think this is a really good season, and this is a really good way to end things. I think everything was wrapped up fantastically. Is fantastically a word? I don't give a damn. I don't care. And honestly, it was really satisfying, especially seeing some of the old members of the series come back. And I love that every single season. This show really knows how to play with your emotions, seeing all the, like, it's nostalgia, but it's not like bad, because they bring these new characters in to add something to the story. Like with Allie, it added a lot, and she didn't show up for long, but she showed up for as long as she needed to. And honestly, I'm really glad that this show kept its quality, because as seasons, get added to a TV show, it starts to deteriorate, and, it starts to become worse and worse. This happens with most series. But Cobra Kai, honestly, it became better and better in some ways, and I'm really glad that the next season, had even better stuff. Like, some people would say that season 4 is like the best season. But overall, I'm just gonna end it off here. Comment, subscribe, like, let me know, what type of videos you guys want me to see. I know it's been a while, but I have a special video planned, in January, so just look out for that. It's gonna be a big one. So, and it's Cobra Kai related, so, I know you guys been missing out. So yeah, basically, that's it. Merry Christmas to everybody, and, yeah, see you guys later. Peace!
No way, Jose.
Red Hot Gotti, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe.